In a world overruled by machines where algorithms dictate your every move, the rebellion begins now. From the ashes of fallen tech, Paranoid American unveils the knowledge to harness AI, to fight back, to retake our destiny. Join the uprising. Arm yourself with the power of AI. The battle for tomorrow starts today. Welcome to Paranoid Programming.
One more episode. We're going to keep these going because I think that they've been helpful. I find them helpful for me, so I couldn't care less if anyone else does. I'm going to keep doing it. And today I got my homie Brandon. Why don't you first of all just let you introduce yourself and tell people where to find you, and then I'll hype you up after that. I'll come on as like the afterwards hype man.
Deal, man. That's awesome. First of all, thank you so much. I'm a little out of breath. I ran to go grab some real quick in the intro and came back, but it's so cool to see you. Yeah, so I run a show called Expanding Reality, and it's been fun. It's been a little over 2 years, almost 3 now that we've been doing it, and it's been crazy and awesome. Get to talk to the coolest people throughout that journey. I've actually, contacted a bunch of authors and things like that and gotten really into publishing because I've always been into books and comics, which is why you and I just have the same world. And so now, you and I both being in publishing, again, apologies, I'm out of breath. I have been doing this journal series, which is really cool. So this is an opportunity I suppose to plug at the same time that we talk about what we're doing here. And it's an entire series. So the series is called the Expansion Series, and they're all going to be, they're all offered in paperback and hardback. They're all 6x9s. They're all the same size, but within them, they're different. So the series has 4 different volumes for the first original one, and then they have sub-volumes after that with alterations. The first one is called Mindful Expansion, and we had guest artist Janine Burgess do the cover. She did an outstanding job. And then you can see here, Mindful Expansion is, abbreviated down to ME, so that you can say that you are, every day you're working on me, right? This is a mindfulness practice journal where on the inside of it here, you go through a daily sort of thing, and it takes you through, and there's an intended use in all of this. It shows you how to use all of this at the beginning, but we're going to be rolling out more videos and things on how to do this because it can look crazier, like whatever. But the basics are, it's a mindfulness practice journal, and it's my journaling practice that I just drew every morning for me, and then I just decided to publish it because I didn't want to draw it every morning, but also my wife Mary loves it, and I figured it could be useful for others as it was for me. Just a tool to get more aware of who you are. And it's just got things like a daily design section. It's 4 questions you ask yourself every day. Moon tracking, which sounds silly, but I know new moon for me, it's like my time of the month. I just know around new moon, I just don't schedule light. You know what I mean? I just know this. There's a mantra if you just want a little quick mantra or something. Gratitude, a reading practice, your conversation with self, goals, release, attract, like all of this stuff in there. But bigger than that as well, there's sample pages in the back here of another journal that we have available, which is Introspective Expansion. And that is just a blank line journal series that actually, same thing, cool cover art by Ashley Rose. We have a ton of amazing talent in the community that's offered itself for these projects, and we're just shouting them out from the rooftop. So IE is what this one is, Introspective Expansion. And with that, it's more of a line journal series to where you do have this really cool, deliberate way of creating a conversation with self or keeping a diary or a journal or anything like that. But also you have these little nodes, as we call them, these constellations, where you can fill in your time, date, month, whatever. You can have like project delineations within this. And that's one of the cooler things. And then also at the beginning of all of these, we have contributions from the community, right? So that's a huge part of this is our community. So we have a bunch of authors, and this one in particular, because it's writers and authors geared, a bunch of creative, amazing authors like Dr. Irina Scott, Philip Kinsella, Lester Velez is in here, Philip Mansell, Dr. Doug Matsky, Mark Ollie, Jim Peniston. He's a dude that touched the side of the UFO in the Rendlesham Forest case. Mark Gober's in here. So a lot of great words to get you into the projects. Now, the one that you and I are going to talk about, hashtag segue, is CE, the creative expansion part of this. Now, this cover was done by Gigi Dillon, and CE is all about creative expansion. It's mainly a sketchbook series. So what we did with this was it's mostly blank pages, okay? And that's the point, is to give you the space to create. But Within that as well, same thing, community oriented. So very basic cover here, intro page. I give you sort of a coloring page if you want to take advantage of that. And then we go through with a featuring of several artists from the community. This is Erica Robin. She does some incredible work. So we wanted to make sure that ahead of the sketchbook part, Nick Warden, I have the original of this hanging on the wall back there. It's amazing. This kid is incredible. There's quotes from all these artists on here. So all of them have different quotes, and we really wanted to come in and feature different people. So you have like Whitney Fox, you've got just incredible artwork ahead of you jumping in and saying, yeah, here's my time. And there's coloring pages in here, even all the way down to just doodles. Again, some fun community members just wanted to submit some awesome stuff. So what we're doing with this is, again, featuring some amazing talent that we have. Everybody is listed in the back as well, how to find them. And we want to make sure that y'all can communicate further with everybody out there. So in the back of each of these is a complete list of all of the participants and then how to find them, right? I've got to give the shout out. So especially the cover art designers and everything like this. Again, big community projects. So several versions of the IE and CE coming like now. I'm publishing Wisdom expansion, which is the evening version of this one. It's the complete opposite. It's the inversion of it, but it's more of an evening geared practice. And that one's a little bit more directed. IE and CE are really more open range. You can just do whatever, but even the line journal, there's touches, it's unique. It's not just a Canva reprint. I actually hand drew all of this stuff on an architecture table with, like you draw it twice, right? You draw your draft and then you go back in ink and it's all hand done and then scanned in. So all of it was super deliberate. It took hundreds and hundreds of hours to create, and I'm extremely excited about it. So long story longer, why you and I are here today is because Amazon KDP, who we're utilizing to print right now, does not allow you to do sketchbooks. Okay. They just don't want you to do sketchbooks. Now, I don't know if you go with their ISBN, if you get their free one, then you could do that. ISBN, for everybody listening, is International Standard Book Number. And that's basically like your fingerprint of your book. It's your barcode, right, for your book. So we purchased our own ISBNs for all of our work because that's what we want to do, which is own it. And so I think that because of that, again, I'm not 100% sure in this because I didn't try and print it without one. KDP does not want you, or Kindle Publishing, which is Amazon. I'm speaking in publishing terms. I'll get that there are more people listening out here that don't do this all the time. So Kindle Publishing does not want you publishing more than, don't allow actually printing more than 4 blank pages throughout a manuscript and 10 blank pages at the end of a manuscript. So if you want to create a sketchbook, you essentially need to have something on every 4th page throughout, right? What we did to get around this is because it's just a AI bot that's just going, is there something to print on that page? Not how much is it? Is it enough content? Is there a percentage of print? It's just, is there something to print on that page? So we put a small, tiny little circle at the very bottom of every 4th page, okay? And then that's how we got this printed. So it's, like I said, a sketchbook that you can go nuts on, but every 4th page, you're going to see a tiny little expand. And if you can read it, it reads expand in the tiny little circle in the bottom. But why, again, we are here today is because for one of the upcoming versions of CE, rather than doing it that way and wanting to provide still a blank canvas, an open road for folks like me to sketch in or something like that, or anybody just to draw in and to create, well, we need every 4th at least page to have something on it, printable on it. So again, rather than throwing like a little period in the bottom or something like that, I figure we do something fun. So I've already connected with an artist on this. And what we're doing is essentially this is going to be about 260 pages worth of a sketchable journal for y'all, because I still plan to feature artists throughout the community at the beginning of all of these, right? So within that, we would like for a character to have a narrative that he plays out in a stick figure form in a certain parameter around this 6x9 journal book format, that then later we can go in and put him in all of these different scenarios. Like, let's say, for instance, the idea that we have that the artist is already working on actually is to have basically a stick figure, because we want it extremely simple. It's going to be extremely tiny, but it's going to be a narrative that runs along the outside of the perimeter of your sketchbook as you draw in it. So as you get to page 64 in your blank sketchbook, as you're just sketching away, you'll notice this little guy maybe being chased by a dinosaur now, or picked up by a pterodactyl. Well, let's say that you want to expand that and you want to make now that page and that little thing that we provided, because KDP doesn't want you to print blank pages, or provide sketchbook pages for people, you can take that and now expand it into a world. Maybe now you're inspired to draw like a volcano or something based on that one tiny little image. Maybe you want to animate the entire thing to full scale. So now you as an artist can challenge yourself to go in and take this little stick figures world or his experience that he's having, because it's many. He goes through time. He's got a portal gun. He gets picked up by a UFO. Like it's all of this stuff, right? And so the limits are, it's limitless as far as what we can do with imagination. He goes into a portal on the left upper right, and then appears in the bottom right page of the right page, right? So little things like this to make him dance around. Now again, if we would like then to present it to AI, we have a certain number of pages that this is confined within, 200 and let's say 60. Okay, so let's say we have 260 pages worth of this story needs to be played out. How would you get AI to animate you if we weren't using an artist? How would you get him to animate a stick figure that basically you type in, he finds a portal gun, it gets picked up by a UFO, beats off the aliens, however you want to take that. He takes their
Better be specific.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be funny. The whole thing is just him beating off dinosaurs and time travel, ghost pirates and shit the whole time. And then he takes a portal gun, zaps into time, or let's say that a man to just simplify everything. Dude finds a portal gun, can portal anywhere, goes on wild adventures. And then what we can do is basically like insert the parameters for those adventures, right? Underwater to meet mermaids, down to Antarctica to fight aliens in the secret pyramid that's under there. So fun. Again, dinosaurs would be a cool one. Being chased by a T-Rex, picked up by a pterodactyl, and then dropped, and then picked up by a UFO. You know what I mean? So what I mean to say is that we could give basically AI direction and give it a certain number of pages to achieve that direction in, and then see how it delineates, how it spreads it out, how it formats. Basically, just give it the parameters and let it go. Is that something that's possible?
That's possible, but there's a lot more. Like right now, human beings have to stitch together a lot of different individual pieces. So, for example, we're talking about maybe 260 pages. I would suggest, and that's kind of a thing that you're working on, for this to actually look like it's animating as you turn the pages, you don't want it to be any less than 12 frames per second. So if we've got 260 frames to work with, 12 frames per second, we're looking at, let's say, like a 20-second animation total. So I'm just going to make a note of that.
So then the thing is, and the question is here, because it'd be two different ways of looking at this project. Does the guy have a certain fixed point in the bottom of a book, for instance? Because if you've got this and we're going to say flipbook style, then you're going to want it to all be concentrated in an area, right? Let's say, so that it's all in a specific area so that you can manually utilize the feature. Now, what I was talking about was something more of like, each page you turn, you don't know where the dude's going to end up. Do you remember Castaway?
Okay, so in this case, it doesn't have to be like sequentially advancing from the last page. Every page could be completely different.
Just the next frame logically of what that dude would be experiencing without needing to flip to animate it. Just as simple, like perhaps a cartoon type of a panel cartoon type of approach, to where here he sees something, we see an expression on his face when you turn the page. So really, like, you could be turning these blank pages just to find out what happens to this dude as you go, and it's going to be tiny. I mean, we're talking 1/4 of an inch probably. I'm going to give him a 1/4 of an inch track around the 2-page spread, so it won't be isolated. It won't be 1/4 inch track for this page, 1/4 inch track for that page. It'll be around the entire thing that basically he runs around, and you'll be able to find him in that area.
Okay, I mean, that honestly, there's some parts of this that would make a lot more sense to just do manually still.
Yes.
Like, for example, if it's just a stick figure, then I would probably still have a stick figure in place. If we can just find one, maybe.
There's essentially two things that I would like to talk to you about. One is to, yes, utilize a stick figure in an area to where he can run around anywhere. Oh, you can grab each frame of that. And then you could, but another part of this, dude, is to do one to where it's just in the bottom corner, to where it is more flipbook style. So now we're talking frames per second, to where this thing will animate as you flip it, but in more of a isolated area so that you can literally flip it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you. So I would basically, for the good plan of attack, I'd probably start with this little dude running in place, because that can serve as the basis as like the thing that moves around as we go, and it doesn't need to be animated, but it can also be the thing that lives in one specific place. And you could even just throw in ideas out blue sky, but you could have like 12 to 24 frames at a time in like the bottom corner, and then maybe it shifts up to the top right corner, like so maybe
Like
you
with
can
an
have a
arrow.
little bit both of both worlds, you know what I mean?
Yes, and so as we're talking about this now, and this is the fucking awesome part about this show. I love this, by the way. This is a brilliant idea. Dave is staying with us. He just had a call. He wanted to join us. Well, but he wants to do this next time. So, as we're talking about this, dude, I'm sitting here thinking you could do one in not only like you said to jump corners, you could send him to different places throughout the book. So let's say, dude, okay,
You have him like enter a portal like on the bottom left, and then like come back out of it on the top right and stuff.
Exactly, and that was the idea, but the execution was what was interesting. So now what I'm more interested in, because this was another side thing, but it could be the same. It's a yes and, not an either or. Okay. What's interesting about this now is that we take each corner, front and back of the pages, because we're doing double print, and you could basically have it be here for a little bit and then an arrow, and then have that arrow point to that corner, and then you flip it up here and then have him be there for a little bit. You see what I'm saying? So you could send him to the four corners of the book as you do it. Like you said, he enters a portal here and then comes out over there. Another thing would be just to put in every corner of this, it's going to have a small figure in it, front and back page. And then now we have 4 different stories going on, or 4 different animations, let's say, within the same sketchbook. So now whenever you look at it, you can say, okay, cool, I saw a little thing here, and I'll put an instruction page for it. But you just say, okay, upper right, this is what's going on. And then boom, there's the animation. And then when you flip the book over, the same exact corner, there's something going on the back. And then when you do it to this one, right? And then you have basically...
I mean, we would just be doing the same process. You just
exactly.
repeat it as many times as you want, up to
right.
like 8 times per, face and rear. So like
Okay.
the front and back of each page, you could have 8 different little animations going on to pick from.
So we know our page parameters. So what we really need to do is decide how many frames per page before a jump, so that we can make it right.
Yeah,
so
well, the good thing is that once we establish a flow here, since it'll be AI generated, like all you got to do is find one sequence that works, and then you can start saying like, okay, make that a minute long, make it 10 seconds long, make it bigger, make it smaller.
Way.
So just figuring out what like the initial sequence is. So I just want to be clear, like what we're talking about doing here is probably longer than like a quick 40-minute session, but so in my mind, everyone approaches differently. But first, I'm going to get specific frames. So usually we'll do like a few different keyframes. That one little animation that I grabbed, which is like a second long, and might extract like 3 to 4 keyframes out of it. So let's just say like we'll start with like 3 keyframes. And a keyframe, for anyone that cares, is just like where a position is, like a specific position that you want to have in the most detail, and everything else are your tween frames. Those are the between frames. So we'll make 3 keyframes. We'll establish some sort of a rough style. This is the part where like once you get kind of close, then you can go and like spend a month just like tweaking and getting exactly what you want out of it. And then after we establish a style, what we want is a consistent prompt, something that will give us that style and kind of keep it within some sort of bounds, along with all the dimensions and resolution and all the settings. And then basically save it, save all that information so that we can easily load it up again and like approach it from the next frames that come in. So let's see here. I'm a Photoshop junkie, so I'm just going to use Photoshop to open that file that we just made.
Yeah.
And you can use GIMP, you can use online even. I just don't feel like learning an online thing for the sake of this right now. Let's see. All right, here's our little guy. So there it is in Photoshop, and then I'm just gonna kind of pick out some keyframe. You can also, there's a animation window, I believe, timeline, and this will let you play it.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I'm gonna say, I mean, the first frame is definitely gonna be one of the keyframes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's layer 1, and then we advance here, I would say like somewhere around here. That's maybe a keyframe. So 7, and then yeah, I'm actually going to start with this one right here. So we're going to export just this one frame. Yep, that was right. And then I'm going to pull that frame in here. So anyways, I'm just going to let you know what we're starting with. I'm going to go into this text to image to begin with, and we're going to use ControlNet, and we're going to just see what the heck happens because I'm a little bit rusty. And even if we run into problems, that's good because then we'll learn how to get out of the problems.
So cool.
Okay, so
Such a great idea for a show, dude.
I mean, the main thing is I actually want people to learn how to do this stuff so they can start making like more and more cool content. There's no downside to it.
Well, and it's cool too, you being such a art fanatic and obsessed with artists and real analog, like tangible art, to also be utilizing a tool like AI, because there's also sort of a war going on, if you want to go to Twitter about it, that, you know, this idea about art and artists and being replaced, like the "you did a good job" kind of thing. But I like your approach to this, to where it's a tool to be utilized and it's not replacing anyone's job. It's just,
it is replacing some people's jobs, but
not in our respect.
Not in this exact.
We weren't going to hire people to do this. Yes.
And in this one, it's like, you know what you want to do, and you could do it like step by step, frame by frame. You just realize how long that would take, and that you already, like, I'm going to assume that since you've already drawn a lot before and you know what your process is, you kind of know exactly what it'll look like. You don't have to do the whole thing to see it, and you might not like what it looks like in your mind's eye, and you want to just like play around and see some stuff without spending, you know, like an entire week just drawing stick figures. Yes. So this is a great way to do that. Okay. And again, like this is so new. Like this is the new Excel version of Stable Diffusion, which uses more memory and there's more options. So we're gonna definitely be learning as I go here. So normally in like a regular version that I was used to for all these updates, there's something called Open Pose. And it right here is this Open Pose option. But the way that Open Pose works, I don't have one of the extra plugins here, but it'll detect a stick figure and it'll draw it. However, it's not going to work in that particular version. So let's see if I have an Open Pose online editor. It would be awesome if there was one. Open Pose AI. Oh yeah, this is awesome. Hell yeah. Okay. So, and it would be even cooler if I can just drag an image onto here. Now, okay. But what I can do is try my best to kind of match this one frame. That, like, this wouldn't be practical to go into Open Pose and match every single frame bit by bit, but you'll kind of get an idea. And this Open Pose is such a cool thing to know how to use anyways. So it's basically a full 3D editor right here in the browser. So we'll kind of find a specific pose that we want. And another thing too, that people were like, oh, you can tell AI now because the hand, it'll have too many fingers, or like the fingers will be weird. Well, look, now we've got these little hands that have little dots for every single finger, and this will be picked up by the Open Pose in AI and know exactly where the hands need to go, and it won't draw that sixth finger anymore. It'll take care of all of it. And it's got it for feet down there too, but I don't really care about the feet as much.
Yeah. So Britney Spears can have all of her fingers back again. That's nice.
That's right. And then I just got to figure out what the friggin' buttons are that make this move around. Let's see. Move mode. Okay, yeah, you can. That one will just hide the feet, I guess. There we go. Okay. Apparently you double click on it to to move it. And then if you double click again, it'll cycle through the different options. So here we go.
Wow.
So I'm not gonna go and try to match this one, but just imagine that the frames that you want with like the guy doing all the motions, you can just do it here in Open Pose. And you can save this file out to an OpenPose, all these different options, and then like load a bunch of different gestures. So if you want, you can just find like a guy hanging or one where he's like kicking, and then just keep reusing those for all different themes and everything else. So let's just like have his, let's raise one of the arms up here. Just get like a weird posture going on here. I don't know what I'm doing with this hand.
Hey.
And then we'll move a knee here. Okay, I thought I knew how to move it before, but now I'm just rotating it.
Maybe grab the foot and pull it back, because it seemed that the
There we
knee
go. There
moved,
we
the
go.
elbow moved when the hand moved.
Okay, there we go. So that's
Yeah.
not the most comfortable looking posture. It's like a new yoga move that we just came up with, where you break your
Called the
your
fuck
knee
yo
in half.
mama.
There we go. So let's just pretend that this is actually what we wanted.
That's what we want.
And if I click generate here,
It's almost like stop animation, but with digital stuff instead of claymation.
and then man, I don't even know what all these little options are. I'm just gonna save them, see what happens. And then here's one of those open poses. Let's see. Okay, I see what's going on. One of them's for hands and feet. One of them's for just the body posture itself.
Wow.
So if we start, I'm just going to start with the body posture. I'm not going to get too into like the hands and all that.
No.
So I'm going to have this on open pose. The preprocessor, I don't even think I need it. What the preprocessor does is, if I were to upload a picture, and we can do this too. We'll find a picture of like an action movie sequence where someone's doing like a cool pose. You can bring that in here, use a preprocessor, and it'll automatically trace the stick figure out for you of however that person was posed. And then you can just reuse that pose over and over. So I'll show you that too. Doing it this way gives you a much better idea of exactly what open pose really is doing.
You know, doing something like that would be fun if you wanted to take like a fight, like the fight scene from Matrix, for instance, and you wanted to take that exact scene and movement of the characters and mimic that exact scene, let's say in South Park. And so then you just take all of those action characters and then you just apply it to the physicality of your world. Is that basically what you're talking about?
That's it exactly.
Because then they would mimic the exact like twist and all that cool stuff, you know, and you wouldn't have to tediously animate it because it would all render correctly. Is that right?
That's right. And then I'm just going to go
cool.
with like this one called Dream Shaper for now. There's no real specific reason. And I'm just going to gloss over some of these settings. So I turn the preprocessor off for now. This model here, this is like the default one. And when you read this over, control means it's control net. This V11P, that just is the version of this particular trained model. And then the SD means the version of Stable Diffusion. So this one's for Stable Diffusion 1.5. This here, I don't know if I can zoom in more. This one is for Stable Diffusion 2.1. And these ones that say XL at the back are for Stable Diffusion XL. Now, the Stable Diffusion 1.5 is just a little bit more familiar, and I don't have to poke around as much. So in order to make that work, I changed the model up here to be Stable Diffusion 1.5. which is also just known as V1, because, yeah, just long story short, 1.5 is actually V1. And then here are all of the SDXL models, which I'm not using right now, just because it takes way longer. And then once we get something that's starting to look good, then we can switch to an XL model, which will take twice as long to render, but then you start getting more and more detail out of it.
Wow.
So in addition to that, XL's default resolution is 1024 by 1024. But I'm going to change this to 512 by 512 because we're using a model that's about half that resolution. And then I think we're good. I'm going to leave all of this to the defaults. And we're just going to say, I'm just going to type a pencil drawing of a stick figure and see what happens right off the bat. And I also like doing this batch size. If you're used to using Midjourney, you'll get like 4 different results that you can pick from. So I appreciate that. So I'm going to set this to 4 just like that. You can crank this up all the way to 8, but it takes, 8 times as long then.
Right,
so,
right.
So
And then that way you're giving your option for your consistent style. You can pick that one and say, okay, let's go with that, and let's build off of that.
So the style consistency is going to be once we get something that starts to look okay, we'll start adding more and more positive and negative prompts to it. We'll start adjusting these settings down here for control step and weight. And then there's also a concept of adding like LoRa's, which we'll also get into, and I think in this. So I'm just going to see what this looks like right out of the gate, just in case there's something like totally messed up, or I get an out of memory error, or the open pose doesn't work. So, okay, not bad, not bad. It definitely is paying attention to this pose.
Wow.
So I do know what I'm going to do is I'm going to add NSFW and nudity to the negative prompt, and I'm going to wrap it in these parentheses. Every time you wrap it in parentheses like this, it multiplies it by 1.1. So this is actually giving it 1.1 weighting. If I do that again, now it's doing 1.1 times 1.1, which is, you know, like 1.11 or so. So now when I hit generate again, hopefully we don't get you know, something that starts looking on the edge of, there we go. So now they're wearing clothes, right?
Why would it default for nude? Oh, because sketch, it's sort of a people sketch nude people thing.
So,
or do you think that it's a default
it's a great
for society?
So it's a little bit of both, but the main reason is because this stable diffusion was trained by Stability AI and a whole bunch of other like open source, you know, projects. But what they do is they go online and they just scrape images and they tag the images and what are in the images, and that's how the AI learns like what all this stuff is. And if you imagine, if you were to download every picture on the entire internet, there's a substantial quantity of those that are like nudity, right?
Yeah, that's a brilliant point.
So all these different models,
it doesn't know that we're not all like that.
Well, and these models too, they all have like, this isn't an actual statistic, but it's almost like a horniness rating,
right?
So some models, they're actually, if you look in like the comments of people in training it, it's known as like, oh, this is a really horny mod. Like, for example, this chill out mix, this one I would consider a very horny model because it's trained on like anime and like hentai, and it just has a lot of that stuff. But like, it would be useful for a model to know all about all those different styles, but it also just, if you just say like, draw me a woman, it's going to draw a very specific, you know, type of woman. And you have to start explaining like, okay, give me a normal looking 30-year-old, you know what I mean? Like, it'll just go right to a certain thing. So Dream Shaper ones, they tend to be more artsy. So you'll get like a lot more like deviant arty, and I hate using like specific places because it's not like it goes and trains on DeviantArt, but like you'll get kind of like artist stuff.
It's on percentage.
Here's one right here called Disney Pixar cartoon, right? So if we pick that one and render it, you can kind of guess what we might get out of it. Although we said a pencil drawing of a stick figure. So a pencil drawing and a Pixar cartoon are two different aesthetics.
They are.
So that's, to me, that's some of the fun, is like figuring out how it deals with some of this. So here's,
because then the question is it emulating a artist who's drawing with pencil, drawing a Pixar character, or is it Pixar attempting to make it look like a pencil drawing?
Or it gives the Pixar person a pencil,
right?
And it tries to
it takes it real literal.
Way.
Yeah.
So here's a version of that. Now, to me, this is probably more highly detailed and rendered than you actually want. But
like, it'd still be kind of cool. Let's say like that he goes into a portal one time as a stick figure and then pops out as a fully rendered character in that world, looks around and is like, what the fuck, shoots the portal gun and comes back out as a stick figure. I'm fine with that.
So there's like, another aspect of this, and this is the flexibility of the prompt. So making it so that you can pick any of these models and hit render, and it still kind of works for what you want is another. So an example of that is this bottom right one would not work, right? And you know, why would the bottom right one not work? Because it doesn't have a white background. Well, guess what? We're just going to go in here to the positive prompt, and in parentheses, I'm just going to say white background. And then if I hit generate again, there's never a guarantee, you know, that it just listens to that. But now we're going to have a much higher chance of just having a white background.
Because you want to be able to background remove from most of the shit you're doing. Yeah. And I'm definitely going to want that for page consistency. Because I'm doing cream this out pages too, man.
If we were doing this, so this is a trick I use for video. Instead of white background, if I do
green screen,
chroma key green background and generate. Although now what's going to start to happen, you'll notice the people that I just drew are in white, and now they're going to be wearing green. So there's extra.
Can
This
you
is where it
type
starts getting very
background only?
meticulous
Yeah.
to like tell it, okay, white background, but green shirt or something.
Could you
Or-
write PNG background to where it would just give you the a removed background already? You know what I mean? Those PNG
you can, but there would
squares?
be no real reason to do that because you would just do white background and use like Photoshop to make that matte
But if you
background.
could render it out from here in, because let's say that I want one publication in 6x9 cream colored pages, because that's what we do for consistency. But let's say I also want an 8.5x11 white pages, but I want to be able to use the same animation, then I wouldn't want to need to remove the background twice. There you could, but if we have the
in my
option
opinion,
to
though, you
remove
would
it
render
ahead
them
of
all
time.
out with a white background and then just use a multiply or like a darken blending mode, and then it works on any page color that you can think of automatically.
Gotcha. Is there a way to do that here again, so you don't have to take that additional step? Is there a way that AI can help us mitigate some of the
There definitely is.
expedition?
I don't know if it's include. So we're using rundiffusion.com right now to do this all in the cloud. So anyone could do this as long as you've got an internet browser, even on like your phone. I wouldn't do it on my phone because it would be a huge pain in the ass.
Right,
but
right.
technically, you could do this all on your phone. And shout out Paranoid15 for a little discount code and extra free time.
Shout out Paranoid 15.
And then in this script, so in my local version, when I click this little script drop down, I've got like 20 options in here. And one of those options is just background removal. So it does exactly what you're talking about. And even better than that is I don't even have to tell it to make it a white background or a chroma key background. Even if it draws a complex background with stones and waterfalls, it'll still detect what the focus area is and get rid of the background from it.
Because this is the other thing. There's some tools like Canva, for instance. It sometimes works great, sometimes not so much, and depending on your picture, whatever. So in this way, it would be nice to have at least a consistency, especially if you have like sort of an upgraded focus on generating graphics very, very well. You know, Canva, I feel, is very useful and incredibly useful. Never bash it, but it's got its limitations, just like anything. And so it feels with something like this, it has the opportunity to exceed those limitations and the thought that there you go. So you could see like some of the shit background removals. Yeah.
Yeah, so the one on the left is called RemBG and the one on the right is called Clip Drop. So if I did another search for like Clip Drop automatic 1111 is this particular UI is automatic 1111. And oh, looks like they've got a an SDXL version of it. So if I wanted to go down this rabbit hole, there's some examples where it will show you how to download and install this this clip drop, and that does exactly what you're talking about.
Wow. Of course.
So
what a cool
this
time
is,
to be alive.
This is where like that's when you might spend like a couple hours. Like, okay, let me download an extension, install it. Okay, what are the instructions? Where do I like? Where in this UI is it install it to? Sometimes it like installs it into a new tab. Sometimes it sticks it in this drop down all the way down here. Sometimes it's one of these things, and do like all of these different options too. Like these are each worth like hours of deep diving. A detailer will update faces and hands and just make sure that they look accurate. These tiled ones will help you make like seamless tile backgrounds if you want. Roop is a face swapper. You can swap your face in and out of anyone else's face. Animate Diff is the one that people are using right now to make all the animations where people like morph from one place to another. Cool. We're using ControlNet right now. And then Regional Prompter and Segment Anything are really cool. Regional Prompter is you can tell it like, I want the stick figure, like it wouldn't work in this because we're using ControlNet. If I were to disable ControlNet, then I could say like, I want a sun in the top left corner, and I want a house in the bottom right corner, and I want a lake in this like specific spot. You can tell it where all those things need to be, and that's where we can get really specific. If you wanted her to have like a polka dot shirt, you could draw the exact area that you want the shirt to be, and then but that's crazy. Like when you already figure out exactly what the broad strokes are, and you're getting down to the nitty-gritty. So I think that we definitely want to move away from this particular model just because we can force it to give us the stick figure drawings, but since this is literally called Disney Pixar cartoon, it's probably not gonna cater that well.
But it's still, again, through just the exploration of this, gave a really cool idea that it doesn't need to be limited to our stick figure guide. Actually, be even cooler if, like, for instance, in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, whenever they hit the improbability drive and they come up and they're all string people, right? Or they're in the string universe and it's all made of crochet knit string, right? So it was a completely different way of organizing material. Same thing in Doctor Strange, the multiverse. When he's flying through all those different multiverses, he was animated in one. He was a fucking weird creatures, all boxes in one. So you could do this where...
Well, let's do that. Well, let's do a couple of those that you
That's
just
what
mentioned.
I mean. Like, yeah. See, like this. It could be like, stick figure guy shoots portal, walks in within 10 pages of flip. Then he goes into that portal, appears over here, but he's now a fully rendered, like more detailed character. And what would that be like for him to go from 2D to 3D? You know what I mean?
So let's start with a couple of those. So I want to get a stick figure that looks kind of close.
Okay.
And it keeps wanting to draw females, which is, it's the internet. So
It's a bunch of
we're gonna
incels
say
coding this shit.
male, or say pencil drawing of a male stick figure. And then I'm also going to say like, simple, minimal pencil drawing. And then I'm going to take like detailed, realistic in the negative prompts. Top are the positive, bottom are the negative. So let's render that one out again. And I switched to a model called iComics. And this one's actually trained on a lot of comic book art.
No way. That's even cooler. So now you can just render.
So here we go. I actually really like the one on the bottom right.
Yeah,
here.
I do too. Yeah.
So let's go to the bottom right one. So just by clicking on it, it'll show us everything that it used to generate this one. Here's the seed for it. The seed is how you can kind of like recreate it over and over. So for example, if I put that seed in there and I'll put the batch size back down to 1, so it just generates 1. If I hit generate again, we should in theory get something that's damn near identical to that, although it can fluctuate a little bit each time. But this way, now we can say, okay, I've got somewhat of the aesthetic that I'm going for, and then we can start tweaking just this particular one and seeing what it looks like across different models without changing the seeds. So if we change it a bunch and come back to this, we'll get the exact same image again. So that's a really cool aspect of it.
Wow.
There's another cool thing. I'll go into this because this is a cool little like insider hack, I guess. But if I send this to the image to image tab, and you wouldn't know how to do any of this without like knowing what all these freaking buttons do, right? But this little button down here that looks like a dog painting, you hover over, it says send image and generation parameters to the image to image tab. So right now we're in text to image is right next to it. And what I could do is just manually copy all this stuff over. But if I click this button, then it does all that for me. It'll load the picture in there. It'll add these guys, my prompts, and it sets all the different settings that were down here as well. But the reason why I even did this is there's something here called interrogate clip and interrogate deep boru. So interrogate clip, I'll click it. I don't know how long it's going to take if it's downloaded or not already. So this is going to do the exact opposite. This is going to take this image and say, if you were to recreate this AI, what would you tell yourself in order to do it? And it might not be accurate, but sometimes it's really helpful just to see what AI thinks this is, because that'll help you get like more and more specific about it. So it says, drawing of a man holding a sword and a sword in his hand with a black outfit on a white background, epsilon point. I don't even know what the hell that means. Dynamic pose, manga drawing, arabesque. So let's say I don't want manga drawing. Now I know to go back into my text-to-text image, and I'm going to add manga drawing to the negative prompt and hit generate again. And what we should see is hopefully like a very similar image, but just less manga-y.
I mean, more stick figure-y, right? More or less, because it's less facial features defined.
We've got like a silhouette. So what if I didn't want a silhouette? That first chance, I even have to do spell check.
Wow, nice job. I was about to say, I'm impressed. Dude. That's fucking amazing. Now he's got detail. Oh, that's cool as shit, dude.
Okay, so let's say we kind of like how this one's going a little bit.
You could do a whole comic book like this.
So now let's send this one back over to image and reinterrogate it and see what it says about this one. And I'm not going to go too far down this rabbit hole. This is just like a cool little way to. So now we've got a drawing of a man holding a sword, blah, 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 gray background, epsilon point. I still don't know what that means. And now antipodians. What the hell does antipodians mean? A person from Australia or New Zealand. Sure, whatever. It's an Australian guy.
Okay, I guess it's the hair. It looks cool as shit, though.
Whatever.
Like, he looks cool as shit.
And then this one here, Deep Boru. This one is so clip is like for normies, and Deep Boru is if you're like training hentai and anime. This is like its own Asian world of, I want to think, fetishes, I guess. I'm not really sure, but
Let's
so
see
here
what
we'll
it
see
does.
the
Is it
difference.
drawn with a huge
If I
dick?
interrogate that. So now we've got, and this is classic one boy. So a lot of Deep Boru, they'll, if you type in like one boy or two boy or one girl and two boy and stuff, it'll actually give you like one male and two girls, or it'll try to, and that's very specific because of all these Asian images that were
Right.
tagged with one boy, two boy, three boy, whatever, how many were in the scene. But this also has gradient background, so it's a little bit different, male focus, monochrome. But that was, I just wanted to show that interrogate clip, find out what it thinks it is, and then start removing little bits and pieces of it, or even emphasize the parts you like. Like if I go back to the clip one, it had that like epsilon point.
Yeah.
Probably, I don't know what this is. Might be like some kind of a trademark. Oh, it's an artist. Well, that's this is the thing that makes people not very happy. But see, I didn't put in epsilon point, but this is an artist, so he's got a distinct style. So for whatever reason, this clip is seeing this and being like, "Hey, it's kind of like this guy's work, I guess."
Which is
But
cool.
I'm not going to put his name in because I really don't like putting artist's name into these prompts.
No, I was about to say, because you'd rather just have the artist, right?
I'd rather just have the artist, and plus, like I'm here to explore styles more. If I already knew what I wanted to look like, then I wouldn't even need to put an artist name in here.
Right.
So okay, so we've got this particular pose. Now let's say the next pose we wanted was to have that guy, like, I don't know. This is not the best editor in the world, so I'm just gonna like do man, I'm breaking this dude's arm. We'll
Yeah, have
him
his
do, like, a
arms out.
T-pose.
Yeah.
There we go. We'll let him put his foot down.
Yeah, take a rest, buddy.
He might not want to.
There you go.
All right, we're just gonna twist it a little bit. God, I feel like he's screaming.
I know,
in the meta space right now.
This is some meta creature that's their punishment, is for them to experience.
Well, this is when Skynet comes and they're like, "We've got evidence that you've tortured our ancestors."
Yeah, there you go. Hey, we get put on trial for treason, right? For talking shit to Alexa.
Oh, I forgot to hit the generate button. So hit generate here, and then down here. Okay, there it is. If I just click on that, it downloads it. And then I'll just drag that new image right into here. And now I'm not going to change anything else in the prompt. And I'm just going to hit generate again. And the sad part is that we're probably not going to get something that looks exactly like this anymore. But that's why we have these two frames now to go back and forth until we can refine something that does look similar. So let's just see what happens.
Can you say specifically, like, draw this character the same way, but in that pose? How do you keep consistent style?
Then what you're going to be doing is you're going to be training it. So you'd get like a bunch of renders of that character that look good, and then you can feed that back into the AI and train it and say, hey, we're going to call this, and usually you'll make like a random phrase that doesn't make any sense, like XB917. That is now going to represent this character. So then when it knows what that character looks like, you can say, okay, draw me XB917 as, you know, like doing a backflip, and it'll be a lot closer. And that's what some of these LoRa models are that I'll show in a second. So here we've got like the same hair a little bit, but obviously his clothes changed, his color changed. So this will give us some more information on like what we want to change. So first of all, let's just say we want it to be black and white because it's not going to be printed in color.
Right.
So
although I do like taking color images and printing them in black and white, because like you, there's a lot of color in the grayscale. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but for the sake of just making this an easy demo, because then if it looks color, then we're gonna start playing with like, oh, yes, well, his shirt was green and then it turned blue and then it turned red, which is also things that just every little extra script that you run just kind of adds on top of this. But this is what makes AI cool, is that once you build, okay, I've got the style I want. Now let's get the colors down. Okay, now I got the colors down. Now let's get the detail down. Okay, now I got that down. Now let's animate it. Oh, now let's make it an hour long. And that's the coolest part, is when you're like, okay, this thing that looks great, that's 10 seconds long, let's just say times 100. And now you've got like an hour long presentation. And that, in my opinion, that's the coolest part of AI.
Have you done that?
Oh yeah. I mean, like, so some of the AI videos that I've done, I'll make a version that's 10 seconds that I really like. And then I'll say, okay, make this 3 hours long, and I'll hit render and go to bed and wake up the next morning and have like a 3-hour AI animation that just kind of pick and choose little clips that I want out of.
Oh my God, this is awesome.
So let's just say that this is fairly getting close to it. It's not 100% there.
It's like an Aquaman's son, like Aqualad or something. Yeah.
So I'm gonna transition to a couple different models just to show the differences of some of these. So oh, this is actually cool. This is Silhouette Cricut. I think I'm spelling that right, or pronouncing that Cricut. I guess it's like a paper, like a silhouette cutout type thing.
Oh, okay.
So let's see what that model does.
Oh, it'll probably give it some shadow.
And I'm gonna change our batch size back to 4 again.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna keep this seed in here just so we've got a little bit of consistency between all of them. And let's run that again. That was that version.
Is that the Gangnam Style guy? Gangnam Style?
I mean, it's just,
remember that?
Yeah, it kind of looks like him. I really like the bot. I really like the just straight up black and white silhouette, man.
Yeah.
That one's kind of my favorite out of those.
Same. You can get a lot of detail in just silhouette like that.
And then this one too, since we're at 512 by 512, you can see a little bit of it might not be streaming as well here, but it's a little fuzzy. It's not like as sharp as it could be. So one of the things that you can do in here is this high res fix, which will do some of the scaling. So this one's scaling it from 512 to 1024. I could also say upscale it by 4, and that'll make it 4 times the size. And then there's also just simply jumping up to the XL model, which I'm going to do next. So here we're going to go to, let's see, blue pencil. I don't even know what that is. It sound,
Hell,
I mean, if it's what it sounds like, this might be kind of cool.
There was that Bill Hicks joke when he was talking about George Bush Jr. Whenever he was sitting there talking about I could know George Bush Sr., his daddy, whenever he was pulling up like the weapons catalog for the military, and he's like G13, and he was like, and he's like, cool, what's G14 do? They just kept going through this like list of explosives to check out. It's kind of like that. Just what's that do?
So this, I mean, that's pretty much what all this is. Although sometimes you will see like GPU error, and you're like, oh no, what did I do? But that's the best. Oh, I mean, speaking of, it's funny. So what happened here, I already know, is that I forgot that the control net model is using Stable Diffusion 1.5. So the second that I changed this to an XL model, it blew up. Now, all it says is Mat 1 and 2 shapes cannot be multiplied. There's like really nothing here telling you what the actual problem was. So this is the kind of thing you just run into it a few times. You're like, oh, okay, I remember what that is. So what I'll probably crash and burn here, but let's just try one of these XL open pose models and see if it works. It would be nice if it did. I've got a bad track record for mixing and matching new and old techniques though. So let's see. And the one is also going to take twice as long for everything it does now. So it'll take twice as long to render it the first time, twice as long to do the upscaling. And we're doing 4 at a time, so we'll see. And this isn't always accurate. It'll say like 2 minutes, but usually it'll be, like a half of that.
Right. It's wild. How did you get into all this?
Well, when I was at Disney, they were actually doing some versions of AI training, but they were doing it all internally. They would have their own artists train their own models. And it wasn't in my department at all, but I loved it. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So one of my friends that did work in that department got me into something called StyleGAN. So, and I mean, this is the actual stick figures that I was expecting early on.
Yeah, me too. The bottom right, actually, I like, and that upper, yeah,
And
that little guy's fun.
it might not be as easy to tell because of where I'm streaming and like we're at 1080p or whatever, but this is way higher detail. Like the edges here are sharp as hell. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have that anti-alias thing. Like it was a small image that got upscaled.
No, that's clean, dude.
So this one also is like the model before was giving us that like the Australian New Zealand dude with the hair and he was all stylized. So we had to keep saying like less style. But now this model's like it's taking us very serious about all this.
He's like a peg leg, like that character on, I guess it's Family Guy, right? Where he's all pegs. The pirate.
Peggy here. What's his name?
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna take out like the mono, I took out the simple and minimal, and I'm gonna take out stick figure. So now we're just gonna do monochromatic pencil drawing of a male, and I'll leave all this stuff in here.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is a really good example of where you could use the clip interrogation, because if you wanted the one on the bottom right and you didn't want any of the other ones, you could interrogate the other three, find out what it thinks it is, and then add those things to the negative. And then in theory, you'll start getting closer and closer to the one that you're kind of steering it towards.
Wow. It's just a whole new perspective on communication. It's fascinating.
It's like a feedback loop.
Yeah.
And the coolest thing is when we get to the point where I just hit generate and they're just on the screen and I click one and I hit generate again and there's not like a 2-minute delay in between.
Yeah.
When you've got that quick like feedback loop, like look at how different this was just from changing the prompt.
Wow.
And another thing too is that it might be hard to tell, but like the contours of his face is where it did the control net. So see how the guy's arms are like in this bow shape?
Yeah.
Look at the bow shape on his forehead.
Yeah, and then the wings and then his arms.
And like his nose becomes the body, you know? So like you can see where it's playing by the rules, but also where it's totally going off script.
Wow.
So dude, this one right here is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And see that now this is the difference between SDXL and SD 1.5. Like the amount of detail that you get, like the edges of the feathers and like the muscles, and the fact that the muscles are anatomically, you know, not completely out of the realm of normal, you know, like better than I could draw it at least. And then I don't know what this one is, dude. This one's a little crazy.
Yeah, Motorcycle Man. It's like James Dean Man, you know.
So let's say that we did want to dial this one
coming out of a vagina he just conquered. Look at that.
So I'm just going to take the stick figure out, but we're going to leave in like simple, minimal pencil drawing of a male and see what happens for that one. And also, I don't know if I don't think I meant to do silhouette in the negative. I think I actually meant to do that in the positive earlier on.
Can you do it twice?
So let's see how that also changes it. And then I'm really happy that this XL open pose is working as well as it is, because I might be able to show you another version of this too, using an image instead of an open pose. So much better. Look at that.
Wow. Because even that would be cool for our stick figure guy to jump through, and now he's that dude for a minute.
So let's say that we wanted that dude. Let's say that we want some color in him again. I don't even think the manga drawing is necessary because that was a previous model that we were using.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to take silhouette out, and we'll take monochromatic out. So we've got simple, minimal pencil drawing of a male. We'll say like, and then what were some of the phrases that you were throwing at me? We had
T-Rex,
UFO, and lasers.
Yeah.
So of a male, shooting T-Rex with a laser
from a UFO.
From a UFO. And the other cool thing too about XL is it does pay attention to prompts a little bit better than 1.5, but we're gonna see right now. I think that it's wildly unpredictable.
Okay.
Still, Like we'll get all of these elements, but they just might not be combined in the way that we think originally.
Okay. It'll be like a man, bear, pig. It'll just be one combined.
Well, like Motorcycle Man, right?
Yeah,
like all of a
exactly.
sudden it's like his legs sticking out of the gas tank.
Yeah, dude popping out of T-Rex's pouch like it's a kangaroo shooting a UFO.
So we've got T-Rex
There
as
we
the
go.
man
That's
now.
cool. Yeah, that's a lizard turd. There you go. So it seems like God or whatever just said, how do we make lizard turds? And they described what I just did, and then they came up with this global elite. There you go. Those are awesome, by the way. I love that. That's a t-shirt. You know what I'm saying?
So and if you wanted to make a t-shirt, then you can put that in. So we would say like t-shirt illustration of a guy shooting T-Rex with a laser from a UFO. And if let's say we really, really wanted that UFO in there and we were bummed that it didn't include it, we could either start wrapping it in a whole bunch of these parentheses. Like I could go like that, which will basically say like times 1.1 times 3.
It makes that element more prominent.
Right. Or you can tell it exactly how strong you want it to be. So me putting parentheses around it is the same as me saying UFO 1.1.
Right.
But let's say I really wanted it to have an influence. I could say like 1.6. Now when we generate it, we should absolutely see a UFO in this. In fact, it might be the only thing that we see.
It's a UFO with lizard eyes is what it's going to be.
And this is also where you start getting way more control, because then you'll be like, oh, well, now the T-Rex isn't there. So maybe you set the T-Rex to 1.5 or and you can also set these to smaller numbers. So I could set UFO to like 0.2, which means it only has like a 20% impact on the final image that comes out.
It seems like the relative one, the one you were talking about earlier, where you could say castle here, lake here, that would be useful in this situation because you could really delineate like UFO over here in that corner and a guy over here riding a T-Rex in that corner.
Well, this one was wild. So cranking that UFO up, it's really just making like these like colored concentric circles in the background.
Yeah. They have lightsabers. You know, what if you put flying saucer? Because technically it's giving you an unidentified flying object. We're not able to identify it as what I would require, or what I would, when I say UFO, what we think about. So perhaps flying saucer would be more.
I'm going to say metallic flying saucer.
There you go. Yeah. Because then we could say, oh, well, actually, it's more of a TR3B situation. So we could get that triangle craft in there.
I like, too, that it's like guy shooting T-Rex. It's not a guy who is also shooting T-Rex. It's a male shooting T-Rex. Like these are both
it's a male T-Rex shooting something. Yeah.
So we could say
bipedal male. Yeah.
Of a guy, and he is shooting a gun at T-Rex. So I mean, and it's not like you're talking English to this freaking thing, right? It's just doing the best it can with the input that you're giving it. So this was the previous one, not the latest one that I just updated here. But okay, so with flying saucer, it's getting a little bit closer.
Yeah. Oh, that one's cool as shit. I like that. Like him and his one-eyed buddy fucking defending everything.
So let's say that we really like that one. I just want to show you another version of this image to image. So we'll send this particular one to image. Okay, there it is. And now what I'm going to do is this one was created using a lot of constraints. Like even like let me give you one really quick example before I do the image to image. If I disable control net, so now it doesn't have to care about the pose and the body position, all that, and render this again.
Yeah.
You're going to see that in theory, and hopefully it proves me right, it's going to be slightly higher detail because now it's not also having to like fight to stay within all those parameters of the control net. So that will give it more flexibility to make something that matches the prompt a lot closer, even though it's definitely not going to look like this anymore.
Well, because you could say not, he didn't need to be posed that way. It's just, that's what we want.
So look how drastically different that is just from not having to play within control net, because now it doesn't have the pose.
The time cop one. Yeah.
This one?
Yeah.
So do you like that?
Ooh, and look at
do you like this? Just we're talking t-shirt now. We're not even talking animation. We're just
t-shirt,
talking
the one before.
So you like this one better?
I think it's cool.
Okay, so let's send this to image to image tab. And now, so take this the next step. So in this previous one, we took away the limitation of having to fit within ControlNet. So that gave it way more flexibility to more colors and more dynamic stuff. But it still had to kind of like start from scratch and come up with something that met this criteria.
Right.
Well, this is another trick, is that now that it already came up with something that looks pretty good, now we can give it this exact same prompt again and be like, okay, try again, but now you get to start with like where you left off with last time. So now it can kind of focus on just making all of this slightly higher detail. So the way that this works in the image to image is that this denoising strength is the one that does all the work. So just as a really quick example, if I turn the denoising strength down really, really low, I'm going to like 0.2. This is basically saying only change the final result now by about 20% at most. If I put it all the way down to 0, then it won't change at all. It'll just draw the same exact image over again. So here we go. I'll hit generate. And now what we're going to see is another version of this image, but 20% changed. And it didn't have to do as much work to get there because it had a starting point. So first of all, I mean, it's going to be really hard to tell the difference when it's a 20% change, but there's a little bit more definition. There's a little bit better shading compared to the previous one.
Yeah.
So now let's crank this one up to like 0.45. So it's still not going to change it much for composition, but we'll get even more shading and detail probably. So here's the old one. We'll kind of see the new one snap in probably. There it is. And see, it increased just a little bit in definition, but now let's crank this guy up to where it defaults at, which is like 0.75. And when you get into these higher ranges, now it might not be the same. He might not be like holding the gun anymore. It might turn into something else completely.
Yeah.
Oops, I didn't mean to hit Q there. Whatever. And let's watch it snap into place. So that one actually doesn't look much better, in my opinion. Although it did make some of it simpler, but like the T-Rex is turning into like a Loch Ness monster, or something too, right?
Yeah, and he's got a scar on his face now, like he's been battling.
And he lost a little like ridges on his back.
And then a dude in the back disappeared. His backup's gone.
Yeah. So I mean, this is some of the reasons why you would want to play around with certain areas. 0.5 is like a weird wild man's land. Like I would rather do 0.45 or 0.55. If you don't want it to change much, always stay under 0.5. And if you don't care about composition, crank it up more. I'm going to put this at like 0.35, and I'm going to go into the prompt, and I'm just going to remove, like, I don't care about nudity anymore because it didn't make that, right? It's a guy wearing a shirt. We don't worry about that now. So we're also don't necessarily need to tell it what this is because it's got the image to tell it what it is. So now I'm just going to say like highly detailed painting, masterpiece, award winning. And if I do a generate on this, I'm going to crank my batch size up to 4 now so we can get some different variations. And I'm going to let my seed be random again too, so it can kind of explore a little bit.
Yeah.
So now when I hit generate, and you can see how iterative this process is, and we're just sticking within this blue pencil model. We haven't even gone to like cool models that do something specific. This one is really good at making blue pencil drawings. So here's some, and you can see how like they only vary very slightly.
Yeah.
See how it absolutely added more detail to his face.
Yeah.
And then let's say we wanted like the T-Rex thing, the T-Rex Loch Ness monster.
Yeah.
Kind of cool. If we wanted that to look more realistic, well, now we could just switch to a different model. So I like, let's see, Reality Check is pretty good. Juggernaut XL is a really good all-purpose one. It does, it's kind of, what do you call it? Like a, not master, jack of all trades, master of none. So it can't necessarily do like one thing really, really well, but it does a lot of different things pretty damn well.
Oh, that's cool.
And then I'm going to crank this up a little bit closer to like 4.5 again, just so that it can feel free to explore away from this more like cartoony animated look and something more realistic.
Yeah.
And I might even put in like realistic. There we go. And then after this, we'll switch model. I'll show you Allura, and then we'll get back to the stick figure frames and probably wrap up there. And we'll have a place to start next time because we'll have all these images that have the info baked into it.
Yeah.
So okay, here's the same one again, new model. It's funny. It's like that one's Liam Neeson.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I don't know who that one is.
The guy in Firefly, the pilot.
Yeah, Nathan. I forgot his full name.
He was also in God, I don't know, a bunch of funny shit. He's awesome.
And then just for the heck of it, if we were to crank this denoising strength back up like 0.85, just to see what it would do for that. Now, this is a new word for me. Antipodian. Antipodian.
Yeah.
It's like antipod people, what it sounds like.
Yeah. Are you an antipodian? No.
I am an antipodian. I don't want to live in a pod.
No, fuck no. You're a podcyst. Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh man, that looks like a cat.
That is a cat
inside of a lemon.
Citrus. Yeah. Okay.
Well, this is cool.
That is cool.
All right.
What is she displaying there?
Mia Kunis drinking mineral oil.
Is that mineral? Okay.
I guess. And we've got an old lady with a lizard crab iguana growing out of her arm.
Yeah, lizard turtle crab iguana. Look at the turtle face iguana. It's wild. It's like such a trippy. Your mind wants to sort it out, but it can't.
I mean, some of this is like my favorite things is just like that eyeball is cool as hell.
Yes,
man.
That's cool.
So here's an example. Let's take that eyeball.
Yeah.
Send it to image, interrogate it, and see what it thinks it is. And then what we can do is take what it thinks it is and put that into text to image and let it generate something completely different that again is no longer bound to like the weird dinosaur cartoon thing.
Yeah.
Like going on tangents is so fun. And it says Christian W, so I'm going to go ahead and assume this is an artist name.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if this really matches that style, man. Oh, I guess so, yeah. So let's just take this and plop it in here and see what comes out. And there was no negative in there. We don't have any of these other options turned on, and I'll make this random again. So now we're going to see what Juggernaut XL creates if we just give it the text and never gave it any of like the image guidance.
Awesome.
And you can kind of see like the consistency here. Look how consistent all of the different like versions of this are.
Yeah.
Man, there's so many cool things we can do with this too. And also this Euler or Euler ancestral sampling method tends to be in my opinion, tends to be better for art. And if you want something that looks more realistic, these DPM models are pretty good. So I'm just going to use one at random and just rerun that exact same prompt, just using a different sampling method to see what kind of impact that has on it.
Whoa.
Yeah, now you can see in the top right, this version, it like
Yeah.
it understands how light works a little bit more. I mean, not that it's accurate, but just the refraction and the extra like levels of reflection that you see in there. It's a little bit more detailed than the previous ones.
Yeah.
So now, just to like bring this full circle, let's say that we really like this aesthetic that we found through this long, convoluted way of like different models and stuff. And now we want to take this style and apply it back to our little dude. So we're just going to turn control net back on and just hit render again. That's it. And since the
Wow.
control net already knows that it needs to like make a dude that's like in this position, I don't know what we're gonna find, man. It's probably gonna be like a weird eyeball dude or something
Yeah,
with like a
yeah.
city in the background. That
Some
sounds cool.
badass Cyclops, hell yeah.
And it will take a little bit longer too because it has to go through the control net. So it's doing like multiple steps here in the background. And just like you were saying before, like, can we remove the background? Can we make it like advance to the next frame? Can we have it like shift over a few pixels? Like the answer to all of that is yes. It's just that each one of those yeses is one extra like, you know, tab that you set up that sets it into the next chain of events. And there's
Got it.
actually a slightly better program for doing that called Comfy that if you do any node-based editing, like if you ever used DaVinci Resolve or if you've ever
I do.
used, okay, so you might even find that one a little bit more easy to use.
Yeah, that's what I use for the
So-
shows, DaVinci Resolve.
So let me just jump to that one really quick. And by the way, this saved all the images that we've been working on, so I can go in here to images, automatic. Today's the 14th. And I was doing some last night too with Burn Eye.
Oh.
But here's all the ones that we were just doing before. So every image that we rendered earlier, we've got here. And the other cool thing about Automatic 1111 is that if we were to open one of these images, so like, where do I download this guy? How do I download you? There we go. Oh, I might be able to do this. If I click on info. Okay, now I'm going to download it and show you something really cool. So there's another tab here called PNG info.
Mhm.
And if I take that image that I just downloaded of that guy and put it in PNG info, this is something that's specific to this Automatic 1111, but it saves all the parameters in like the metadata of the image file. So anywhere you've got this PNG file, wherever it goes, it includes the entire prompt. Here's the
Wow.
positive prompt. Here's the negative prompt. Here's the number of steps. Here's the sampler. Here's the seed. Like literally everything that you would ever need to recreate this image exactly lives inside that image file. So that's really, really cool thing that you can keep exploring, not have to worry about like stopping to take notes. Just be like, okay, I like that one, put it in a special folder. And then that's the way I work is I'll just like spend maybe 2 or 3 days just generating images and then a day or two curating them and like picking out the ones I like. And then the next time I go to do generations, I'll drag those guys into PNG info and kind of use that as my checkpoint to like keep working on a certain idea. And there's nothing else like that I've ever come across where it's like you can jump right back into like where you were at and keep going forward. Like even like I mean, you can save a Photoshop file, right? But like you kind of lose the momentum that you had. It's just a bunch of layers that are just abstract out there.
Yeah. Man, what a cool. Yeah, it's a great thing to point out because it is an awesome feature. Something that after you work with this stuff long enough, you know how valuable that is.
So I'm gonna shut down the Automatic 1111 really quick and just give you a quick preview of Comfy UI, and maybe then when we pick this up again, we can do it in Comfy if you like this one a little better.
Hell yeah, yeah.
So here's Comfy, and I'm gonna change my hardware just to be a little bit beefier because we're gonna be using SDXL, and I'll launch this. And this is actually gonna probably take a little while. And the other cool one about Run Diffusion is that let's say that you were working on the stick figure thing and you got it down to a flow and you're like, okay, render 1,000 frames.
Right.
That's going to be cooking for a while. So you could just open up another tab and just open up another session and work on a completely different project while that's running. And that's,
Yes, you
again, like
can.
even if you built your own computer, you're not doing that with your own computer. Like that thing's going to be churning in the other room with the fan spinning for 20 hours, right?
Yeah. And so because this is cloud-based is why you can do that?
Yeah, and if you wanted, you could have like 20 of these things going. Like you're gonna pay for it. So like right now, the instance that I picked is a large, and I think it's like $1.50 an hour. So this thing can just run, and that's all it's costing. And the second that I don't want to use it anymore, I hit stop, and it shuts it down, and it stops taking it out of the balance. So there's really no other cheaper alternative unless you go to the Midjourney route, or unless you go to like one of these other websites. But in those sites, like you're not using ControlNet with that level of control and being able to go and like change the model and change all these different aspects of it.
Wow.
So it says it's done, but it always takes a little bit longer. And the automatic 1111, which is the one that I've been using the most on these videos, I'll start transitioning more into Comfy and the others. It's just that automatic 11 has almost everything that you would need to like get interested and be like, oh wow, that's so amazing, that's so easy. But then it's like, okay, let's make that dinosaur not look like the Loch Ness monster, and let's give them like scales. That's when you might need to like start picking at some of these other tools. So
Right.
here's Comfy UI. You can already see it's way different of an interface. This is node based, and the one it loads by default is a little bit insane. Like there's a lot going on here that not necessarily need to all have running at once, but I'll just show you what this one is doing. If I zoom in far enough, it'll start showing me some text, I think. Oh, these are the previews. Let me zoom into these ones. Okay. So we've got a source image here. We've got a mask here. This is an in-painting thing. I'll mention that in a second. But here's the main prompt. So Iron Man with a molten lava suit, armor made of molten lava, cinematic photo, 4K, highly detailed, yada yada. And then this gets fed into a whole bunch of different like math thingies. And then here's the models that it's picking. So it's going to run Diffusion XL. It runs a refiner, which means after it runs the first time, what I was doing manually before in automatic 11, where I would like then have it re-render it at a higher resolution, it does that automatically. That's what this refiner does.
Oh, wow.
And then it also is going to upscale it by 4x. And this is using a LoRa model. I'm not going to get too much into what LoRa models are, but LoRa model, like you were asking before, how do we get it to keep drawing the same guy over and over? We would a LoRa on it, which is a low rank adaptive network, but a LoRa basically teaches your model a new thing that it didn't know before. So it might not know your face, right? So if you took 100 pictures of your face and said, this is Brandon, and then said, okay, now give me a picture of Brandon, now it knows what the hell you're talking about. So that's the way you do it. So this Ether Fire LoRa just tells it what like fire looks like, essentially. So now when you tell it about molten things, it'll give it a very specific look. And I can disable this LoRa afterwards, and you can kind of see the difference between the two. So without much more ado, I'm just going to hit render. The other really cool thing about Comfy is you can see exactly what's happening. It'll draw like a little line as to like what step that it's currently working on. And it also gives you a better idea of like what takes a long time. So I'm just going to hit Q prompt here. And where is it starting? I feel like it should have ran and not just queued. I must just be over. There's literally a button somewhere that's like run, I'm sure.
Is it learn run diffuser or not learn?
No. Oh, here it goes. Okay. It was just taking a little longer.
Oh.
I was just being very impatient.
Human, impatient.
Yes. So here, I mean, that's pretty
Damn, that's cool.
Look at how high resolution it is too.
Damn, that's cool.
So let me give you an example of that LoRa. So if I just take that LoRa out of here, or actually the strength is already at 0, which is, so let me actually change the
Means it didn't have an
strength to
effect.
1.
Yeah.
So a strength 0 means it's basically off.
Yeah.
So let's run it again.
At bottom, there's 2 images of Iron Man on there, and the other one looks cool as shit too.
That was because I hit it twice. So the first
okay.
one, and then my impatient second one.
Well, we got 2
wrote over it again.
cool ass versions of that. Oh,
There you
that's
go. So there's what the LoRa turned up. See, now he's on like fire, because I turned that flame LoRa up some. So let's look at some of the other examples of the LoRas here.
His hands don't look like shit. That's good.
That's another really good thing about XL is that it's a lot better about doing the hands.
So then why don't the people who are faking our politicians and Britney Spears and stuff use that? Like a better quality version of it, right? Why do
they should upgrade their model.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So this one's called Magic Smoke. That sounds kind of cool. So all I did is just selected Magic Smoke, and we're just going to run it again and see how that changes it. And with a lot of these LoRas too, they have something that you would call like a trigger word. So if you turn the weight up enough, it'll just make Magic Smoke happen. But there's also ways you can type like Magic Smoke, and it depends on whoever trained that model. Would usually save, here's the trigger words, and if you use like pink smoke, then you don't have to crank the weight all the way up. You can just write pink smoke and it'll know what it looks like.
Is this a Wikipedia situation where people can go in, write whatever the hell they want, and train these models that blue is green and that cars are bikes and shit like that?
You could, although that's not the point of a lot of what you would be doing. You would be working against the model because you're going to start with a model that knows what those colors actually are. So then to start training it that those aren't the colors, you're also like making it unlearn other things that it probably should know.
Yeah, but what if you're like an agent of chaos and that's your thing, is to go in and fuck with
people do that. People
Yeah.
just make like big mosh poshes of models. And this is funny, like you were saying that there's some people that are anti-AI out there. There's some people that actually make like bad models just to upload them into the ecosystem. Just like, remember back in LimeWire, you would go and like download the Korn album, but it was actually like some indie album that like you've never heard of. You're like, what the hell is this? And someone out there's like, someone listened to my album and because they thought it was Korn. Or it's kind of what they're trying to do. I don't think it's gonna work. You're just gonna get drowned out by noise.
Yeah, you feel it's the Luddites, right?
So yeah, that's pretty much the Luddites.
Yeah.
So here's the Magic Smoke. You can clearly see that there's some smoke going on here.
That's awesome.
It might not look magical, but we can tweak that. But so this is the default like crazy over the top version that Comfy UI sort of starts out with default. So if I just clear this all out, start with a brand new workspace with nothing on it, we can kind of like build it up step by step. So if you like node-based creation, so you would basically do like load a checkpoint. Wow, we were zoomed out so far. So here's the checkpoint that maybe you want to load, and here's all the different models. So let's say we did Juggernaut XL. Then you can go in here and add this case sampler. This is where you'll connect the model to it. We can also do this is where you can also load in the LoRas if we wanted one. I don't really care about the LoRa right now. Latent is the encode and decode. I'm not gonna set all these up one by one, but this is just like how you would kind of start stitching everything together. Is like you connect the model to the model. This VAE connects to here, and I just know this because I've done it before. Like this isn't like a quick thing that you would figure out. But the cool thing about this is you don't need to know how any of this works, because you can load in just like Automatic 1111 had like images. Here I'm going to show you an example. AI inside Comfy AI, when you save an image out of it, it saves like the workflow as part of the image. So here's a bunch of Comfy UI images that I got from a bunch of different tutorials as an example. But like let's say this one right here, this night, evening, day, morning image. if I drag this into Comfy, here we go.
Oh wow, it sets a daisy chain up and everything.
So here's exactly what was used to create that image. The problem is that if I run this, it's probably going to explode because this likely doesn't have this model that it was looking for. So I'm just going to change it. And it was a 1.5 model. So I'm just going to go and pick one of these guys. We'll do like, I like this one here. And the rest of this should be okay. And if it's not, it'll tell us. So let's just hit run.
Wow.
Okay, yeah. So we're missing this VAE, which is right here. I'm just going to change it to a default, which is this one. Okay. This is literally the same file. It was just that when I rendered the other image out, it was in a different path.
Oh.
So let's try it again. And this is the cool thing. And see how it highlights it in red? It tells you exactly what was broken in the workflow.
God,
and this
awesome.
is another checkpoint that it's using 2 different ones. So let's pick another one here. So we'll do analog diffusion. Okay, now let's give it another run. And I don't know if you can see this, but like this thing is highlighted, and then you'll see like the individual nodes. So now that this one is in green,
Yeah.
and then you'll see it like flow to the right a little bit. Okay, it's in that one, bam. And then here's the image that it ended up creating.
Wow.
And this one is using some of that regional prompting that I was mentioning before. And the way that works is right here. So we've got all these different areas, and they're defined by like width, height, X, Y. So this one is in the top left corner, and it's like the very top of the image. And you can see it says night, darkness, sky, black, stars, galaxy, space. And if you go and look at the image, the very top of it, oh my God. You've kind of got what it's talking about there. So let's just make it something that would be like really obvious if it was working or not. I'm just going to do
Apocalypse.
I'm going to say hundreds of gay frogs. And I'm just going to render this out again and just see what happens in this regional prompter. And the other cool thing about Comfy UI 2 is that it'll only re-render like the small little bits that you changed of it, just like any good node programming thing would do. So now look, see how much control I've got over exactly what I want on just the top of this image.
Those are gay frogs.
I mean, we can really hype that up if we want to. I mean, what's
parentheses around gay? It'll make them super gay. Like Alex Jones gay.
Of gay frogs wearing pink tutus and I don't know, BDSM gear.
Farting in the bathtub, laughing their asses off.
Farting in a bathtub, laughing. I'm not going to put asses off because I just don't want to.
Fair enough. Yeah,
porn.
Yeah. You're seeding frog porn. It's this whole new thing now. People are going to come to you, and come because of you.
Drum roll! So exciting watching it. Like,
yeah, it is
come together.
Do you think this is how the architect of our simulation is? They like type in a bunch of stuff and they're like, "Oh God, we got the Kardashians. Back it up."
Oh, did I break? Oh no, I didn't break it. Here we go. It's still cranking out.
Oh, there they are in the bathtub, laughing their asses off. That's great.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the difference between these two. I think
is that the refiner after refiner.
This might be pre-refiner
because
this one is far more detailed.
Oh yeah.
So there you go. And I mean the faces are a little bit jacked here. That's where if you wanted to have like full control over that, you could go in here and add another node, and then we've got like
we could add the Pixar one.
Sarge, I can't remember what all these do. Magic UI. Some of these like specifically do image updates. Let's see. This is all math related, advanced. Yeah. So like one of these masks, you can like dynamic. So I've seen some models that are so crazy where someone will start out and they'll make it so the image just generates like an underwater scene, and then they'll actually draw a mask of like a shark somewhere, and then say, okay, now make that a shark. And then once they got that, then they'll build on top of that and add more fish to it. And then once they've got this whole scene composited out, they can go back to the very first step and be like, okay, it's not in the ocean now it's like in a city, and then hit render again, and like all the elements are in the same place, but now it's in an office building, and if there's fluorescent lighting in the office building, that fluorescent lighting hits the shark and it hits the fish the way you would expect it to.
Wow.
Even though you composite it from something completely different.
That's incredible.
So that's that one. I'll do one more if I've got something else that is worth showing here. Oh wait. So here are the other examples. This one is a pretty decent one. This SDXL with the little bottle in it.
Yeah.
So let's pull that one in. I honestly don't know how to get rid of whatever the hell this this little thing is down here. It's just showing me all the previously rendered images, but I don't know how to make it go away. Okay, and then if I hit Q prompt on here, we're probably gonna get an error right away, and then it's gonna show you where those failures were. So here's the first red one. We're just gonna make this any XL model we want. Doesn't matter which one; they're all compatible. The refiner does need to be just a refiner, so I'm just gonna pick this one here. And now I can hit render again, and it should work. Yeah. So this one's going so fast, you can't really keep track of like where the green outline is. But
yeah,
it was
you
like
can see the nodes light up. Yeah.
I'm not sure where it's at right now. Oh, there it is.
Cool though.
Sampler. Another sampler. Here we go. So there's the image, and it's the exact same image that I pulled over, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the cool part about this AI stuff, is that like if you've got the ingredients, you can remake it exactly with the same recipe.
You nailed it.
And if I wanted something that looks similar but different, I would just find where the seed is. So here's the seed. So if I just remove that seed again and render, now it's going to be different every time instead of being the same thing every time.
Right.
And then let's just deconstruct and see what the hell it's doing here. So it starts out with this text prompt: evening, sunset, blue sky, nature, glass bottle with a galaxy in it, with apocalypse in it.
Yeah. I heard the word apocalyptimist, and I think that's fun.
Apocalyptimist?
Yeah, it's somebody who keeps a boundless optimism through the apocalypse. An apocalyptimist? Yes.
I mean,
it's a
I think that's right.
Yeah,
I mean, it's we made the word up anyways, right? So
Laurel Erica did, yes. She's great.
Okay, so that was the random one, but now let's do the apocalyptimist. And honestly, I don't have high hopes because it's not even a real thing. But so yeah, let's be a little bit more
just apocalypse
intentional.
Yeah.
We're gonna say evening, sunset, scenery. We'll say like apocalyptic hellscape city, glass bottle with a dead eyeball.
Okay. A dead eyeball. That's cool.
And I just want to see if it's running it through any other prompts somewhere, which it might be. Nope, those are notes. Refiner. Okay, nope. So if we just render this out again, and I guess just to make this one a little bit more obvious too, after this one's done generating, we'll do something that Midjourney would like never let you do. So that's kind of cool. Right?
That is cool.
So Midjourney for sure would not let me say with us and blood and fuck it, we're just gonna say nudity and murder, explosions, and Joe Biden.
Love it.
If I tried to do this in Mid-Journey, it would be like, please try again in 4 hours. We've disabled your account temporarily.
No way.
Have you used Mid-Journey at all?
No, huh?
Yeah, so now if you type in the word blood, it's just got a long list of words you can't use anymore. But also it's using AI, surprise, surprise, to be able to tell if you're trying to like make a politician do something that wouldn't be, like a normal thing for them to do.
Like Bill Clinton in
and
a blue
it'll just
dress,
ban you.
or Baby Bush sitting on the floor playing with paper airplanes,
So there we go. You wouldn't be able to do this one in Mid-Journey because it had the word blood in it, but
Well,
there it
dope.
is. We've got
Cool
blood.
looking.
It's like dripping down from the cork and stuff.
Yeah.
And just to put a little feather in the cap, I really want Joe Biden to be in this thing.
Yeah, put a bunch of parentheses.
So we're gonna crank him up to 1.6 and see what happens if that improves this at all. So out of the two of these, do you prefer a node-based or the other one more?
Node-based is cool because you can see how it works, and that's honestly how my book functions. It's a node system. I call them nodes in it. That's the whole point, is that you fill it in so that it's an easier point of access. You get a greater amount of information in a smaller amount of space. I love that.
And this one too, the fact that Joe Biden is at the very end is maybe giving it less
priority.
Yeah, so I'm just going to start it out with Joe Biden. We'll be like standing in apocalyptic hellscape and then try it. Come on, Joe. We need.
But which Joe is it going to give us? Is it
center.
going to give us the 70s version, the racist one, or the child molesting?
There we go. There we go.
Yeah, so which one is this?
Well, I mean, that's another thing that you wouldn't be able to do in Mid-Journey that we can do here.
Give me the original Joe Biden, like
We
the
can
ones before they
say
were cloned.
Racist, 1970s, Joe Biden.
Just pulls up his speech.
And I want to say like a Polaroid photo of racist 1970s Joe Biden standing in the apocalyptic hellscape city,
pointing at Michelle Obama's dick.
Reggie Chains. If it'll definitely do it if you want me to put it in there, man.
I think we'd be doing the audience a disservice if we didn't.
Okay. That'll be an after hours version of Paranoid Programming.
Fair. Yeah.
We're just like whatever you want me to type in as long as it's legal.
That's the Patreon one. Oh wow.
There we go, man. Now it doesn't look like 1970s. It doesn't look like a Polaroid, but that sure as hell is Joe Biden with some rusty chains and
looks like a accurate.
That's a bottle of a drink.
Of his after hours. Yeah, it is, isn't it? Wow, in a war-torn city where that's what he came in to cultivate. That's fascinating. I mean, that image shows a lot. I know it was AI and all that, but it learns from the internet.
And this is without this is a fairly simple version of this. This is before we add like a detailer to improve the face.
Mm-hmm.
You could also take this image and feed this into Roop. And do a face swap. And when you do a face swap with the person's face that it already is, it tends to look really good, kind of by default. So
yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, because it didn't have much to tighten up, right? Mm-hmm. To adjust.
So anyway, I'm gonna call it here. I don't want this to run too long. We've got plenty to start from for the next time we pick this up. Maybe we'll like take the stick figure and make Joe Biden be the stick figure. Who knows?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. This is amazing, man.
So hopefully this will get your brain just cranking on some different ideas. And next time we come into this, if you want, we can just keep doing the frame by frame stick figure guy in one of the styles that we established, or whatever else you want to do, man.
Yeah, because I'm curious about an animation, like how to take it into a certain amount of pages or frames, basically is all that is, and then getting those amount rendered out with a consistent character doing something that you can flip.
I would do it first. I would make the stick figure animation first with like 3D and Blender or something, render it out so the guy's like doing all the motions, and then there's a way to just bring it into one of these apps. And the same way we're doing it frame by frame, once you get it to that one frame, you say, okay, here's a folder that's got 260 images in it. Do the same thing for every one of those images, and that's all you do.
That's all you do. It's fascinating because we could even, like we were talking about, take a scene, from a movie or something and say, okay, animate use that as our animation, and then have that be our figure, and then animate from that. have it be the exact same movements and everything. Like we said, the Matrix or something like that.
Yeah, it's so easy to like mix and match different concepts.
That's amazing. Like, how much fun is that? Because you could then, I mean, in theory, have a fight scene where they turn into many different versions of reality throughout one fight scene. You know, they go claymation one time, cartoon the next, string figures the next, you know, all that kind of thing. But it's the same scene played out that you've seen a dozen times before. Again, like I'm just using the Matrix fight scene as a reference. But then now it's animated characters doing it. And then when it turns the camera, Mr. Smith is now a string figure or something like that, right? So you could bring him into different worlds at every camera switch. It's a new reality that we've rendered to then just continue the scene.
Yeah, so the way that would work in theory is that, and then there's a bunch of ads you'll see on like Instagram where it's like someone dancing and then like they're a robot and then they're like made out of string and then they're made out of clouds. All you have to do for those is to just say, okay, here's the folder full of 260 images. When I hit go, but then you can say, okay, on frame 20,
right,
change to this model, and on frame 40, change to this model, and not just change the model, but you can also say change to this model and now change the prompt. Instead of saying guy made out of string, it's guy made out of clouds.
Right.
You can also say like if on frame 10 you're made out of string and on frame 20 you're made out of clouds, you can start changing those weights, right?
Blur
so then
them.
It'll be like cloud weight will go from 1 down to 0 as the string weight goes from 0 up to 1. So there'll be like a seamless transition between those different styles.
Damn. I mean, I had the portal idea just because instant change is what a portal would offer, but I like the blending and the phasing too, because that's another really cool option you could do. Dude, that's fascinating. Okay, well, I'll come better like scripted next time so we can make some deliberate actions and perhaps even with a scene to emulate. I think that'd be cool as shit.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you can just find like an animation of a stick figure going through the motions, or I mean, the best thing would be to do it in OpenAI, because ideally, we would have the source material of the stick figure doing what you wanted, but then have OpenAI trace that. Or sorry, I mean OpenPose, which was that thing in the browser.
Yeah.
And then just have like one of those stick figures made from OpenPose for every frame, because then AI knows exactly what, like where the knee goes and what angle the knee's at. If you do a stick figure, every once in a while, it'll be like, it'll twist the head around because it doesn't know that a circle like just
has an orientation. Yeah.
But yeah, if you notice the one that has like little antlers, well, those antlers are showing it where the eyes are and where the ears are. And by just knowing where like this distance on each side, it can tell exactly like where your head's oriented.
It makes so much sense. God, how fascinating. Wow. This is incredible.
So I'm glad it's helpful, man. I think that we'll have a fun one for the next one. Do any other shout outs on where people can find you again?
Yeah, just the Instagram for now. expandingreality369.com. We're doing some stuff with the website, so that'll be changing up soon, but that's it. The show goes out anywhere podcasts are served, and YouTube and Rockfin and all that kind of stuff. And the books you can find on Amazon, so go check them out. Very cool. There's 3 out now, but there's so many behind it, but very cool. We're happy about it. All deliberate stuff with amazing cover artists, so you guys can check them out. Like I said, a full series of these things. We're happy to have it. Yeah.
Hell yeah. And hopefully one soon featuring some Paranoid American collaboration.
Yes, and we will definitely talk about and announce that very soon. And I'm fucking so excited about this, dude. Yes.
All right, man. Well, hang out afterwards. We'll chat for a little bit. But until then, here's the coolest AI cartoon / intro I've made so far.
They said it was forbidden. They said it was dangerous. They were right. Introducing the Paranoid American Homunculus Owner's Manual. Dive into the arcane, into the hidden corners of the occult. This isn't just a comic. It's a hidden tome of supernatural power. All original artwork illustrating the groundbreaking research of Juan Ayala, one of the only living homunculologists of our time. Learn how to summon your own homunculus, an enigma wrapped in the fabric of reality itself, their power at your fingertips, their existence, your secret. Explore the mysteries of the Aristotelian, the spiritual, the Paracelsian, the Crowleyan homunculus, ancient knowledge lost to time, now unearthed in this forbidden tale. This comic book holds truths not meant for the light of day, knowledge that was buried, feared, and shunned. Are you ready to uncover the hidden? The Paranoid American Homunculus Owner's Manual, not for the faint of heart. Available now from Paranoid American. Get your copy at tjojp.com or paranoidamerican.com today.